The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Undefeated on the road. Houston takes it in Lubbock 69-61.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars.
In a dogfight of a road game, Houston improves to 9-0 on the road, undefeated on the road thus far. Just one more road game to go, one true road game to go, that is. I would argue the Big 12 tournament's kind of an Iowa State, Kansas State kind of home game, but that's not here nor there. This is tremendous. We got a bunch of people commenting already in the show notes here. So much to say about this one. I want to talk about Milos a lot. Milos Uzan, career high 22 points, or at least a Houston career high. I don't know what the Oklahoma career high was. I just too excited to look that up right now. Big time performance out of Milos in this one as we talk about this live, breaking it down after the game. He was super aggressive early, super aggressive late, picked his spots. X factors across those. And I thought Emmanuel Sharp put his imprints on this one. A couple big threes, a couple big defensive plays. Jawan Roberts, big time baskets inside. And Jawan Roberts went 10 of 12 from the free throw line when it mattered the most. 10 of the 16 points from the charity stripe. I mean, just like big time performance. Malik Wilson's 6 points felt weirdly important when they happened too. Like I can actually in my head pick out each of those different layups. Or the two layups and the free throws on the foul line. But like either way, he's just like a true team culture effort on the road in Lubbock. I know they're down a couple guys. You know what? I don't seem to have a lot of sympathy for that after people didn't seem to have a lot of sympathy for Houston losing guys a year ago, right? The truth of the matter is that some of these top programs, Houston, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Arizona, this top portion of the Big 12, they all play with nicks, knacks, and bruises, and guys missing games here, guys missing games there, and find ways to win. Houston won this conference doing that a year ago. That's the way this goes, man. Now, I got a lot of people flying in with reactions here. Joe Bless's incredible game. Team is so clutch. Milos and Roberts especially. Roberts had tough defenders on him, but pushed through and manned up for free throw line. Francis also key. Francis, I thought, played really well. Longtime listener Adrian points out the all here tonight was Tech's injured players. Missed me with all that. No one made excuses for U of H when they had major injuries a year ago. 9-0 road dogs. Agreed. Adrian Ken chimes in as well. What a dogfight. Let's take that number one seed. We're coming for the back door into that number one seed as well. We'll see when March Madness rankings get going. TI7791 says defense stayed the course, about as good as you're going to get. Really wish we weren't working tomorrow. LOL. Yeah, that 8 a.m. class is going to be hard to teach. Again, teacher and coach, that 8 a.m. class is going to be hard to teach in the morning, but I don't care. I mean, I have a nice little U of H polo on right here when I walk into class, and I'm just going to be beaming. Houston's Big 12 champs after that one. Oh, man, what a game. John points out here that Cryer looked a little tired. Cryer had the game of the season for him over the weekend to win that one for Houston with 28 points. He had just 5 in this one. I think it's fair to say, like, the expending of all that effort over the weekend led to his 31 minutes, which was the least of any starter not named JoJo Tugler in this one. Kind of probably did weigh heavily on his legs. That's probably a fair assessment. Ultimately, though, Houston manages to get the win. Doesn't matter where it comes from, to find another guy to get in the backpack and say, take us to victory. It's been Jawan Roberts before. We've seen Emmanuel Sharp hit big threes. We've seen LJ Cryer do it a couple times. And tonight, Monday night, big Monday in front of the whole nation watching premier ESPN time slot, the guy was Milos Uzan. Continues the point guard legacy, frankly, that Houston has been building. I'm not going to post this one from Walter because it kind of almost swears, but those toughest team wins t-shirts certainly don't look great when you don't win. Ken points out here, Miles' game has grown so much. Can you believe go back and read? I'm not going to go back and do it because I want to embarrass anybody. Go back and read those comments on these episodes back in like November when people were like, this guy's not going to work. We have no point guard. Oh my God. Like people were freaking out because Milo stepped in and had to replace Jamal Shed and was not quite Jamal Shed yet. Really, really tough and a ton of growth out of that guy. We'll talk more about him in the second segment. I want to talk about other guys as well here. I want to give some props in this as we're reacting at the start to Javier Francis. Francis in this one had just 2 points. It was a nice post move inside. Played 19 minutes. 6 rebounds, a big block. I felt like a lot of what Francis did, though, was stuff that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, right? Deterring at the rim, helping tag the roller, playing a nice, like, in between two guys from the help side spot to kind of defend two bigs when, like, Robert, someone's out doubling. Francis did so much in this one. Again, limited time, just 19 minutes. He and Tugler split the full 40 at that center spot. But like I think we take it for granted because the culture that Kelvin Sampson's built, right? That like, of course, a starting center is going to get moved to the backup spot and just like perform excellently in that role of the course of his probably final season playing college basketball. And like, of course, that's just going to work out super well for Houston. We take that for granted. I want to stress that this kind of thing will not happen at most other programs or with most other kids. This speaks highly to Javier Francis, highly to the culture that Sampson's built. And frankly, has been so important in what they do because Tugler can't shake the foul bug. He had no fouls in the first half and fouled out with all 5 fouls happening in the second half. Francis really stepped up in a big way. And again, like the big block was timely. He covered JT Toppin for stretches, the best player at Tech. JT Toppin, a lot of effort and like visibly was like just working his butt off. And I don't mean this in a discrediting way. The dude had 14 points on 18 shots. That's Houston defense. That's all that is, right? Houston made that man work. And it wore him down. It wore him down. Admittedly, with their injuries, they were down to just a 6-man rotation. And we've been there before. So I'm not, again, you got to win however it plays out, and that Houston's been there as well. But Juan chimes in Houston because that's just the name of the game. Is Houston wins these kinds of games. Houston wins the game over the weekend, the same kind of thing. Man, what a win to officially seal the share at least of the Big 12 title, regular season title that is this season. Hard to imagine they don't win one of the next 3 games and get it outright as well, but really separated yourself from the pack. There's all kinds of time between now and Selection Sunday to talk about like there's this backdoor you into a 1 seed and all that kind of stuff. And, you're currently ranked 6th on the different metrics or whatever as far as what could comes and make you the second highest 2 seed, but there's a couple SEC teams that'll probably beat one another and yada, yada, yada. Tonight, just enjoying this one is, I think, the name of the game. Matt points out that it's about time the other guys who are the ones who are shorthanded, and I have to, after watching Terrence and Tugler and ultimately Jamal as well, all those guys go down. Ramon goes down every year, it feels like. I mean, I have to agree.
Place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Tuesday night has the game everyone is talking about on the docket. Luka Doncic and the Los Angeles Lakers are 8-point favorites at home versus the Dallas Mavericks. Elsewhere in the evening, the Cavs are 6.5-point favorites on the road in Orlando. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make everyone want more. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The Houston Cougars and Texas Tech Red Raiders faced off in a top 10 college basketball showdown on Monday night.
69-61 in a dogfight.
Craig Smtih is no longer the head coach of the University of Utah men's basketball program.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes.
You've talked about, there were some things there, what you were hearing. There's another story on it like that. When there's smoke, there's fire. That's all I really want to say about that.
What are you talking about, man? What happened today? No, look, man, here's the thing with all that stuff, and I'll touch on it very briefly, right? Sometimes it's a hard job being a reporter, right? Because you hear things constantly, you hear it from really good sources. You're not going to out your sources, and they're not always going to be the most popular things. Maybe sometimes you don't use the best wording, right? I can admit that, but
I admitted that too.
Yeah, it's look. I am a very blunt person a lot of the times, right? And there's a lot of things that I keep filtered and withhold. There's some things that just pop out sometimes. And, when they pop out, there's always a semblance of truth to them. And people will sit back and they'll try to spin it and slam it and flip it one way or another regardless, right? Even with the stuff that came out today. But look, everybody does that stuff. Yeah, I made that comment, right? Everybody does it, and look what came out today. So that's about as much as I want to talk about. There's other fun stuff today I want to talk about, buddy. So
yes, there absolutely is. Yeah.
I appreciate you mentioning that though, dude. Because
I said, I wish we looking back on that. I said, I wish I would have asked the question differently. I wish I would have stopped and asked that. But I've also said, the reason I didn't overreact when you said that was because this is happening all across college football's landscape right now. It's not just a BYU thing; it's in everything. So that's going to be the focus of tomorrow's show.
You compliment them 1 second and then make one little comment like that, and what does everybody remember, right? So, hey, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So.
1,000% the case. But we got to talk about this Craig Smtih thing. This is something that is crazy. Alex, I was shocked at the timing. I think he just upset Kansas and Kansas State. I felt like he earned the right to finish out the season. Utah obviously did not feel that way. There must be some things going on behind the scenes. How did we get here with Craig Smtih no longer being the coach of Utah men's basketball?
So you said it, the timing. So that was nuts, Kay, because I got a message. Oh God, probably late morning. So getting closer to noon, right? And saying like, hey, there's going to be a change in the Utah men's basketball coaching change in the Utah men's basketball program. Okay, cool, right? So kind of expected it just because of everything I knew that had gone on last year, right? And
it was very hot, to put it like
it was bad. It was so bad. We can kind of dive into all that stuff, but it didn't shock me. But then all of a sudden I see it pop through from Goodman, the national guy, that it was legit today, right? And so I probably should have looked at it more like, wait, today or what, right? Because it's not common. There's not that much time left in the season, right? And this is not something that Utah is used to. When it comes to coaching hires, at the same time too, had Chris Burgess not jumped to BYU, this is something that I had told everybody last year, the boosters' dream scenario. And I'm sorry to say that for Craig, but the boosters' dream scenario would have been if Chris Burgess was still on staff and Craig was starting off kind of so-so this year and everything, pulling the plug midway through the season and letting Burgess have a longer runway with an interim tag to see what he could do, right? And so it wasn't fully shocking on that, just because, again, knowing kind of the mindset of the boosters and everything and all the drama that hit last year in the off season. But yeah, without anybody that, look, Eilert, great guy, great coach. He's not it. It's going to have to take a miracle for him to be able to keep the head coaching tag as opposed to interim. I mean, they got to win the Big 12 tournament. They got to make a bit of a run in NCAA tournament. That, let's be real, that's not going to happen. This team is not built that way, right? So yeah, definitely crazy timing. Wasn't surprised that he was going to be let go at all, though.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that it felt like, barring something crazy for Craig himself doing, that it wasn't going to work out. The fact that he was fired less than 2 weeks removed from some of those massive wins is where it is so surprising.
That's with me, though. I mean, look, Kansas, they started off the year strong. They're awful right now. They're brutal. I mean, look how bad BYU beat them. BYU's not that great. They can toot their horn about the Arizona last second win, right? Like, BYU's a good basketball team, but it's so, just the fact that they beat Kansas that bad, that doesn't look that much better on Utah, because Utah went through some bad spurts in that game and still beat them.
Oh, for sure.
It's
still beating Kansas, though.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
It is, right? The whole prestige thing, right? And look, Kansas is ranked Kansas was ranked where they were ranked, just off of credibility alone, just like Utah football the last couple of years at certain points was ranked. And it's like, I mean, have you seen how beat up these guys are? These guys aren't a number 12 team or whatever, right? And so similar there. But Kansas State, good win, right? UCF, brutal, absolutely brutal. Oklahoma State lost, brutal, completely brutal. So when you got those things stacking up, even if they happen here and there, right? Sandwiched around two decent wins, it's just going to give the boosters that much more ammo when they're already tired of you, which they were, and look, for different things, they tried to step in, they tried to help out last year, and Craig wasn't taking it, and any prideful guy in sports, I mean, I can put myself in Craig's shoes, and it would have been difficult with some of the stuff that they were asking him to do, right? But at the same time too, it's like, okay, grin, bear it, do what the boosters are asking you to do what Harlan is asking you to do, and you're probably not going to be the coach of the team at the end of this year, but you're going to find yourself in a much better, you're going to find yourself in another stable situation. Didn't turn out that way.
Place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Tuesday night has the game everyone is talking about on the docket. Luka Doncic and the Los Angeles Lakers are 8-point favorites at home versus the Dallas Mavericks. Elsewhere in the evening, the Cavs are 6.5-point favorites on the road in Orlando. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make everyone want more. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The Houston Cougars and Texas Tech Red Raiders faced off in a top 10 college basketball showdown on Monday night.
69-61 in a dogfight.
Is Nebraska attempting to take the Indiana route to the college football playoff?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast.
Big news on Friday, at least as far as big news in February college football goes. Nebraska will not play Tennessee in 2026 and 2027. The Huskers were scheduled to go to Knoxville in 2026 and host the Vols at Memorial Stadium in 27. These two programs have played just 3 times, all in bowl games, never at their historic home stadiums. Would have been a pretty nice sight to see that orange and red going head-to-head at Neyland Stadium and Memorial Stadium, but Nebraska will instead play Bowling Green at home in 2026 and Miami of Ohio at home in 2027. And cherry on top, Nebraska added Northern Iowa of the FCS to its 27 schedule to make it 8 home games, a rarity in that season. So I am disappointed, Connor, with the way all of this went down, but maybe not in the way you'd expect that I'm saying that, or maybe it is in the way that you'd expect and not others. I'll get to my thoughts, but what do you think first of this cancellation?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of angles to it, and there's a lot of reasons or excuses why you would move on from a game like this, and I don't like any of them. To be honest with you, I don't like.
Okay,
I accept that all of them are realities in the world of college football that we're in right now, but it just feels like the big picture thing for me is that all of these things that happen and all these changes that come across, they seem to happen at the expense of the fans.
Yes.
And there was a huge argument going on over the weekend. We've had a few days to sort of like sit back and just swim in this for a few days here.
Good wording.
Yeah, people have reacted and then counter reacted and things like that. But like, I think people have fallen into the trap of sort of thinking that everything's about the playoff. Everything is about the playoff. And what you could do whatever you want, create the easiest schedule you possibly can, just get Nebraska wins. I've never felt that way about Nebraska football. I want to watch them play good teams. I want to I feel like people in this state have they pride themselves on not backing down from a challenge. And I feel like Nebraska has done that by wiping these games off. And this game was originally scheduled in the Steve Peterson era, and then was been pushed back once or twice.
He worked in Tennessee.
It's amazing. It's like, and so this game is kind of been something that has been earmarked for a long time. So I feel like it's disappointing. I don't love it. But Nebraska's going to get that extra home game, and they're going to make some extra revenue off of it. Nice. Congratulations to them.
So here's what disappoints me. This conversation that was initiated by Nebraska about how it's all about money. And we've seen some fans, we've seen some media over the last 72 hours breathlessly defend Nebraska, saying, but it's all about the money because they're going to have this 20% reduction to the stadium in 2027. So you might lose, let's say, $10 million, $10 to $15 million of net revenue. So from the 2027 bottom line. So we got to add an 8th home game in 2027, and you can make back a pretty good chunk of that. But you're going to have to pay Tennessee $1 million to get out of those 2 games. You're going to have to pay 2 guarantees for teams that would not exist because you don't pay Tennessee a guarantee to come to Memorial Stadium. So it's 2 guarantees to group of 5 teams in excess of another $1.5 million, $2 million. So the $3 million is cut off from what your recouping might be in 2027. Still, you're going to stand to come out in the black a bit by canceling these games. That is not taking into account the exposure that you're losing from playing Tennessee in
100%
in 27, which is somewhat difficult to calculate. If you win the games, one of the games, the exposure is more significant. Those 2 games in 2026, the game in Knoxville would have been on ESPN or ABC. The game in Lincoln in 2027 would have probably been on Big Fox. How much money is that worth to your athletic department? How much money is that worth to your brand? Is it the $5-6 million that you're going to lose by not, in total, by not playing these 2 games in the series? I don't think that is a factor at all. What this is about is Nebraska wanting to clear its path so it can have the schedule that it wants to make a run at the playoff in a way that we've seen in 1 year of a 12-team playoff some teams be able to do. And I think it's totally fine. I think Nebraska should want to be in the playoff. And I think as long as the SEC is going to play 8 conference games and the Big Ten is going to play 9, and they're going to compete for the same prize with the same criteria, and on the weekend in 2027, when Nebraska plays at Ohio State, Tennessee's playing Mercer, then it's okay to go ahead and not play this series. Do I like it? I don't love it. No. What I dislike more is that they're acting like it's about money when really it's just about not wanting to play Tennessee. Matt Rule doesn't want to play Tennessee. Troy Dannon doesn't want to play Tennessee. Fine. Don't play Tennessee.
I think it's flawed though too, Mitch. Like I think the whole, I mean, everything has become about the playoff. And when we set out on this journey a year ago, it was like, man, everything's going to become about the playoff. Everything is about the playoff. And I'll remind people that Nebraska's been to 1 bowl game in 10 years. Like they need to win some football games, and so maybe they're and you would say this is a move to get them to win more football games. But I'm thinking about it more like big picture, more globally from that perspective. What you said, I think, is so important about the exposure that you get. The games that these games, they're unique. The non-conference premier game for Nebraska that they've traditionally had for a long, long time now, they invigorate your fan base every single year.
Look at Colorado last year.
Yes, Colorado, Oregon. I mean, Washington in the past. You get to take those trips and see those places of the country and experience those different things, and they get to come see you. And guess what? When Tennessee would have came here in 2027, all of them would have raved about how much they love Lincoln. And I think there's a value to that that just, like you said, can't really be quantified. And I like, think about that fan base in particular, Mitch. That fan base is incredibly passionate. They're incredibly online, right? Like a year or 2 years of back and forth of I just think that it would have been great fan base. I think it would have been fantastic.
It would have been great. And I'm going to miss it. And I'm sad that it's not going to happen. But if you want to blame somebody, blame Greg Sankey for having an 8-game conference schedule. Blame the college football system that we live in right now for not making this game necessary. Nebraska doesn't have to win this game. Nebraska has more to lose in these 2 games than it does to gain. Yes, even if it wins one of those games. Nebraska, if it can find a way to win 10 games in 2026 or 2027, and I don't think people should totally scoff at that. Nebraska won 6 games in the regular season, 7 with the postseason victory in 2024. It has 2025 still to go. 2026 would be Dylan Raiola's junior season. 2027, you don't know where you're going to be. Nebraska can be a contender for the college football playoff in those seasons. If you don't think it can, and I'm not talking about you, but if a fan doesn't think, or a media member out there doesn't think that that's realistic, that Nebraska should be at least aiming to get to the college football playoff in 2026 and 2027, then what are we even doing here? Why are we even having this discussion? You have to aim for that. Indiana, SMU, Arizona State made the college football playoff this year. Nebraska has to put that as a goal, something out there on its radar, and this is the easier path. This is what you have to aim for. This is the way you have to do it. Blame the system that we are in college football. It shouldn't be like this. These games should be incentivized to play, but they're not.
Yeah. I think the other part of this, Mitch, is going back to what I said at the top and what you just mentioned there, the Indiana way. I hope that this is not a, some sort of reaction to how Indiana made the college football playoff this year. So. I just think that is
in a roundabout way.
I think that is like it's. I don't think you could do it. I don't think you can replicate that. They had so many things come together for them. Obviously, it was all made possible by the fact that they had a light schedule. But Nebraska is just never going to be able to manufacture their schedule enough to make it so light that they're going to be college football playoff bound exclusively because of the schedule. They need help, obviously. But like they're in the Big Ten, so chances are you're going to see 1 or 2 or 3 of Ohio State and Oregon and Penn State and Michigan every single year. Like you can't duck them. And Indiana didn't. They lost to one of them, and they got into the college football playoff this year, and they got to down Michigan. So I just think that the method is really hard to replicate and duplicate.
In 26 and 27, Nebraska plays Oregon and Ohio State, both of those seasons. It has Indiana and Washington at home in 26, and in 27 it goes to Washington and Wisconsin. So, and we don't know what Washington and Wisconsin or Indiana is going to be like in 26 and 27. I have a pretty good sense that Ohio State and Oregon will be good in 26 and 27, right. And they're both on Nebraska's schedule. So they have enough games that where the strength of schedule is going to be where it should be if they take care of their business and get to 10 wins or whatever the threshold is at that point. If you're on the bubble, like if you're in that like Alabama, Ole Miss range, from this previous year, and you have a win against Tennessee, that's going to help. But that's the reward. The risk is greater in playing that game. So if it's all about the CFP, this is the smart decision. If it's all about what the fan experience can be and like playing into the pageantry, the history, like what we've known college football to be for decades, then you don't want to be doing this. But I just wish that Nebraska has to put a spin on it and say it's about money and this and that. But the reality to me is that it's just a smarter decision when you line everything up with where you want your program to be in those two seasons.